It's funny how AI marketing makes it seem like we'll be analyzing mountains of data in seconds.
Yeah.
The reality is a little more nuanced, right? There's this whole great unlearning happening,
Right.
where we have to adapt to these tools and rethink our old methods, especially in qualitative analysis.
Absolutely. It's not just about speed, but about harnessing AI's power without losing the crucial human element of research.
Yeah. And that's where today's deep dive comes in. You share this thought-provoking article called The Great Unlearning, Making the Most of the AI Paradigm Shift.
Yeah.
Featuring insights from Dr. Suzanne Fries, who's a pioneer in qualitative data analysis and AI tool development.
Right.
It feels particularly relevant right now.
Dr. Fries offers a crucial perspective on this shift. Imagine 30 years ago, coding software seemed revolutionary. It sped things up, improved quality, but there was also a risk of detaching from the data itself. AI has the potential to do the same, but on an even grander scale.
That's a great point. So where do we even begin with this unlearning? The article mentions AI tools for everything from writing proposals to creating screeners to diving deeper into the data. It's a lot to take in.
It is, and that's precisely where the unlearning begins. We can't just try to fit AI into our existing workflows. We need to step back and ask, what do I as a researcher truly want to optimize? Where does AI genuinely add value?
Now, I'm curious about your take on this. Is AI going to make human researchers obsolete? I have to admit, that's a thought that's crossed my mind.
It's a common concern, but I see it more as a collaboration.
Okay.
AI excels at handling large data sets, but it still struggles with the nuances of human communication and context.
Yeah.
Humans, on the other hand, bring empathy, critical thinking, and the ability to ask those why questions that drive deeper understanding.
So it's not about replacing humans, but about finding the right balance.
Exactly. Think of it like this AI is the orchestra capable of processing vast amounts of data. But you, the conductor, bring the human touch, shaping the data into a meaningful symphony of insights.
I love that analogy. So where does this great unlearning actually begin? How do we start shifting our mindset and methods?
Dr. Fries points to something we all do in qualitative research: coding. It's a fundamental method, but it was born out of necessity.
Okay.
Human brains simply can't hold massive amounts of text in mind at once. AI, however, doesn't have that limitation.
That's a fascinating point. If AI can handle the data load, does that mean traditional coding is becoming obsolete?
Not necessarily obsolete, but ripe for reinvention. Dr. Fries suggests that prompting is the new coding. Instead of meticulously labeling every bit of data, we can leverage AI's capabilities by asking it the right questions and guiding it towards the insights we seek.
Okay, so instead of coding, we're prompting. Could you break that down a bit more? What does that actually look like in practice?
Think of it as having a superpowered research assistant.
Okay.
We need to become skilled prompters, understanding how to communicate with AI in a way that elicits meaningful responses. It's about learning the nuances of AI language models and treating AI as a thought partner in the research process.
That's starting to paint a clearer picture. But I imagine it takes some practice to get good at prompting. What are some of the skills we need to develop to really excel in this new era of AI-assisted analysis?
It's all about honing those core research skills we already possess: curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking. These are the qualities that will distinguish us as researchers, even in an AI-powered world.
So it's not about learning entirely new skills, but about adapting the ones we already have.
Precisely, AI can handle the heavy lifting, but it's still up to us to ask the right questions, interpret the results, and connect the dots in a way that creates genuine understanding.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense. We're unlearning old assumptions about how research has to be done and embracing the potential of AI to reshape our methods and even the questions we ask.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that AI isn't a threat, but a powerful tool that can help us reach new levels of insight. And the best part is we get to be active participants in shaping this future of research.
This has been incredibly insightful so far. It feels like we're on the verge of a major shift in how we approach research. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm curious to know more about Dr. Fries's work and how she envisions this great unlearning unfolding in practice.
That's a great segue. Let's delve deeper into Dr. Fries's perspective and explore some concrete examples of how this unlearning is playing out in the world of qualitative research. Dr. Fries's work is fascinating. She doesn't just talk about the theory of the Great Unlearning. She's actively developing AI tools and encouraging researchers to embrace this shift in thinking. It's not about fearing AI, it's about seeing it as a partner in the research process.
That's really interesting. But there's still a part of me that wonders if we're losing something by moving away from traditional methods. Is there a risk of oversimplifying things, sacrificing depth for speed?
That's a valid concern, and it's a tension we need to be mindful of as we integrate AI into our work. But remember, the Great Unlearning isn't about discarding everything we know. It's about being open to new possibilities, adapting our methods, and finding the right balance between human expertise and AI's capabilities.
So how does Dr. Fries address that tension in her own work?
She emphasizes the importance of what she calls thoughtful prompting. It's not just about throwing any question at the AI.
Right.
It's about crafting prompts that are clear, focused, and aligned with our research goals. It's about understanding the strength and limitations of the AI and using it in a way that enhances our own analytical abilities.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. We still need to be actively engaged in the process.
Absolutely. AI can help us sift through mountains of data and identify patterns, but it's still up to us to interpret those patterns, draw meaningful conclusions, and connect the dots in a way that AI can't.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's a learning curve involved. What advice does Dr. Fries give to researchers who are just starting to explore the possibilities of AI?
She stresses the importance of experimentation and a willingness to embrace a new way of thinking. It's about being curious, asking questions, and not being afraid to make mistakes.
So it's about approaching this new era of research with a sense of curiosity and a beginner's mindset.
Exactly. It's like learning a new language. At first, it might feel a bit awkward and unfamiliar, but with practice and persistence, we can become fluent in this new way of interacting with data.
I like that analogy. It makes it feel less intimidating. But I also have to ask about the practical side of things. What are some specific ways AI can be used in qualitative analysis?
Well, imagine being able to analyze thousands of customer reviews to understand emerging trends, or sifting through hours of interview transcripts to identify key themes and patterns. AI can help us do that in a fraction of the time it would take manually.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially when you're dealing with large data sets. But how do we ensure we're not losing the richness and nuance of the data when we use AI?
That's where human skills come in. We need to be critical of the AI's output, validating its findings against our own understanding of the data. We need to be able to ask, does this make sense? Are there any alternative interpretations? What's missing from this analysis?
So it's about using AI as a tool to enhance our own analytical abilities, not to replace them altogether.
Precisely. And as we become more comfortable working with AI, we can start to explore even more creative applications. Imagine using AI to generate visualizations that help us understand complex relationships within the data, or to develop predictive models that anticipate future trends.
That opens up a whole new world of possibilities. It sounds like the Great Unlearning is less about abandoning traditional methods and more about expanding our toolkit and adapting to a new research landscape.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about embracing a future where AI and human intelligence work together to unlock deeper levels of understanding.
This is all so fascinating. It really feels like we're at a pivotal moment in research, and I'm curious to hear what you think this means for the future of qualitative analysis.
That's a great question, and it's one that I think we need to be actively exploring as a community. I think we're on the cusp of a truly exciting era of discovery, but it will require us to embrace the spirit of the Great Unlearning and to be open to new ways of thinking and working.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation, and I think it's safe to say that AI is going to have a profound impact on the way we do research. But before we wrap things up, I'm wondering if there are any concrete steps our listeners can take to start their own journey of unlearning.
That's a great question, and I think it's on all of our minds. Where do we even begin with this great unlearning? I mean, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another to actually put it into practice.
You're absolutely right. It can feel overwhelming at first, but remember the core message here. It's not about throwing out everything we know. It's about being open to new possibilities and adapting our methods. So maybe the first step is to just start experimenting, to play around with some of these AI tools and see what they can do.
I think that's a fantastic starting point. There are so many resources available now, from free online courses to open source tools. It's easier than ever to dip your toes into the world of AI and start getting a feel for how it can enhance your research.
And maybe the key is to not be afraid to make mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know research is all about trial and error.
Absolutely. In fact, I think embracing a beginner's mindset is crucial here. We need to be willing to let go of our preconceived notions and approach this with a sense of curiosity and openness to learning.
It's like we talked about earlier with coding. Now, I'm not a computer scientist, but I understand the basic concept is that we were essentially creating a shorthand for ourselves, right? So we could analyze large amounts of information. But AI doesn't need that shorthand. It can handle the raw data itself.
Exactly. And that's why prompting is so powerful. We can guide the AI, ask it specific questions, and leverage its ability to process information in ways we never could before.
So instead of getting bogged down in the minutiae of coding, we can focus on the bigger picture, asking the right questions, interpreting the results, and ultimately finding those aha moments that lead to true insight.
You got it. And the beauty of it is that AI can help us uncover those insights faster and more efficiently. Imagine being able to analyze a data set that would normally take weeks or even months to process manually and getting meaningful results in a fraction of the time.
That's incredible to think about. It really opens up the possibilities for what we can achieve with qualitative research.
But I do have one final question. What about the ethical considerations of using AI? I know there are concerns about bias and the potential for misuse.
Those are important concerns, and they're something we as a research community need to be actively addressing. Just like any powerful tool, AI can be used for good or for ill. It's up to us to ensure that we're using it responsibly and ethically.
That's a great point to end on. We need to be mindful of the potential pitfalls, but also excited about the possibilities. So to our listeners, if you're feeling intrigued, I encourage you to explore some of the resources mentioned in the show notes. There's a whole world of AI waiting to be discovered, and who knows, maybe you'll even uncover a few great unlearnings of your own along the way. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I'm sure we'll be revisiting this topic again soon.